and we are ready for more 39 Dark. We have taken you through a third successful progress scene, although this one was accomplished with more treason, I believe, and also
Yes,
with a sacrifice. So
yes.
Jack is incarcerated.
I
Okay.
have to choose another agenda,
Yes, you do. And
and
mhm.
I have exactly something in mind, but I'm not finding it here.
Well, in other words, you have something fictional in mind, but you're not seeing a corresponding textual agenda. Is that what you're saying?
Maybe corporate is exactly. Maybe corporate rights. So the agenda is um,
Let's. I know what we've been very careless about something, and that's why we're
yes,
having trouble. There's a difference
yes,
between an agenda, which is the word in the book, and a
yes.
call to action, which is the specific fictional manifestation of it.
Mm.
So tell me what your call to action is, and then we can go look at the agendas.
Okay. Are we thinking about the the privatization of public services,
Right.
and putting 39 Dark against the privatization. In this setting where everything is already privated, it means nationalization.
It also has an interesting effect of permitting Earth businesses to own things on Mars, potentially.
Yes,
It also is tied directly to the corruption issue, which was our first anger card.
yes,
Currently, our three anger cards are corruption and weapons sales and media complicit compliance,
yes.
right? And so those are the three anger cards. The It seems to me as though the privatization issue ties very closely to the corruption one, because clearly members of the government will serve to make it possible for some company to buy things to privatize them, and then they leave the government and become a shareholder in that company, and of course,
Yes.
all that sort of thing. So so that so let's take a look here and see. Just there's almost no real reason to find it in the agendas, but let's do it anyway. um and there are a couple of possibilities, but one of them probably is uh corporate rights.
Mm,
The idea that but although that's an interesting term. And then also, depending on what services are being privatized, technology access. It could be that some of the services in question means access to particular technological, benefits, and therefore those are being privatized, and therefore the technological access is compromised. You could do it that way. Seems a little bit more concrete. Corporate
mm.
rights seems almost more like a kind of technical legal question, but it would you would think about what particular, if you want to make it about technological access, then you would say, well, what is it that is going to be imminently, very quickly, what is about to be privatized?
Um, ah, something. Uh, Hell,
Air.
hell.
Perfect. So let's see. Technology access, it has to be something that's not fatal if it's withheld. So something about the air, something about particular,
I
filters or
think
particular.
this colony is divided into different pressurized section,
Right,
so that some hole in the wall doesn't kill everybody, but only
right,
the people who live in a certain place.
right, right,
So probably if hair is privated in some zones, the tariff, the price will be higher, and the
Right.
quality of the air could be worse.
Right. I think that this makes a lot of sense because Mars Colony has received an influx of immigrants, and so therefore the scheduled expansion of the technology, to keep the air as good as possible through as many living areas as possible, um, is behind schedule because the colony
Mm.
is expanded too rapidly for it, and so therefore the government is saying, you know, well, that's okay. We'll fix it. It's faster and more efficient if we privatize it, right?
Yeah, the things I always said.
Yeah, of course. And
Yeah.
so, therefore, that makes sense, a lot of sense. So it is really about technology access, but the call to action concerns the privatization.
Yes.
So perfect. In that case, I believe you had just made a progress scene. You succeeded in a progress scene was our last scene, correct?
Yes. I significant progress.
Right. And you achieved the first agenda. You actually succeeded fully in the first agenda,
Uh, I
didn't
don't
you?
think.
Or are you still in the 40s or still low on both of them?
I
Significant
think.
progress in two?
Yeah, I'm free. If I remember, I in the first one, the representation,
Yeah.
and I should be at the 43.
Right. Okay.
Second one, transparency, I would be at 45.
Excellent. So are you allowed to pick a new one? Yeah, after significant progress, you can pick a new one. Yeah.
And at the third one, I am at 44.
Well, with significant progress being made on three different agendas, I believe that it's time for some real response. First of all, you are a special committee is appointed, a special prosecutor is appointed to examine the status of 39 Dark, to you know aiming at making you an enemy of the state and aiming at making the 39 Dark look very bad. So the investigation has very little to work with in terms of really being able to arrest anybody or to indict you or things like that. Um, the but it's able to try to, it's basically a propaganda push. So it's a legal maneuver, but it's basically to establish in the public mind just how questionable you are, how and at the same time, uh yes, okay, we're gonna, all right, this is fine. You guys, I'm going to say there's a meeting of uh 39 Dark leaders. So the faction leaders, remember Scarlet was one of them, and and a few other people, that are associated with the leaders. All of you will get together for a conference, and you'll get together for a conference in a. Again, I kind of like the idea of you using various rooms in that university as a place to meet, and so there are guards. You've posted people have, 39 Dark has posted guards at different places. You arrive to meet uh, in a fashion where there was a meeting scheduled somewhere else, but you meet here instead. So people are practicing some basic security to try to, avoid too much surveillance. So there's you and about 10 other people. And it's a beat up academic room. The computer doesn't work in it, but somebody has brought a portable viewing device. Well, I guess we would think of it as a laptop, and and you guys can watch some of the broadcasts. Now, a lot of this is before these broadcasts are actually released because both Scarlet and Gold are very, very good at hacking the websites and the government and getting information before it's released to the public, and often before it's properly edited. And so they're able to know quite a bit. Well, some of the things that you'll see is that is a newscast that's in the process of being edited, and what they've done is make it look as though you purposefully incited the violence, incited the riot. That it's all about how clashes with protesters, the police had no choice but to defend themselves. They feared for the safety of the colony, and so it's really trying to spin the events of the recent uprising, and in particular, in particular, there are lots of incidents, and these are events that have not been released to the news yet. You guys are watching these. Uh, there are incidents where people in 39 Dark Insignia, and particularly Midnight Insignia, nobody's wearing the four color, but people with the Midnight badge are being caught on camera, really like beating, almost killing immigrants and blowing up, immigrant uh, buildings and facilities. Um, and some of it's pretty bad. I mean, like they break into a hospital and or clinic, and disperse the doctors and stuff, and beat up patients, people who are lying there. And this is going to be spun as the or 39 Dark is out of control. The Midnight faction, clearly fascists are doing this, and the the camera work is surprisingly professional, and one would wonder why these people would do this if somebody were just filming this, right, and not go after them with their camera, for example. And so the people in Gold show you that this cut, they can alter it so that it's grainier and more cut up, more edited, so it looks as though it was more
Let me guess,
spontaneous footage.
even the Midnight representative doesn't recognize any one of these people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The Midnight guy is saying, well, that's none of us. Though we've learned, we've learned to work with, we're part of 39 Dark now. We're not, uh, you guys need a little bit of reminding once in a while what our real priorities are, but we're working, we work with 39 Dark. And yet he looks a little bit embarrassed. He looks a little bit, he says, I won't say that, some of the people, especially people we brought in recently, I won't say some of them aren't a little confused about that sometimes. Um, but he says, but look at that, they're wearing their badges. These badges, they are, I mean, I'll have to start investigating through the ranks myself. I mean, we're going to have to go down and see if we don't have some problems. But then he asks the right question. He says, "But who's filming this? I mean, what is this?" And the people from Gold and Scarlet are saying it's really clear. I mean, these are staged events. This
Mm.
is this is their they're transforming their Avengers tactic into a more sneaky one. Um,
So I'm looking at the Midnight representative,
mhm.
and and to the other too. After this, I say this they want to destroy us.
Mhm.
You know what my plan is.
Last I remember, says the guy from Midnight, you were telling us to wait around and do nothing. And
Mm,
we when we fought hard at that, we fought hard at the courthouse. We fought hard at
this
the
this is
against the peacekeepers.
foreshadowing.
We put our
That's
bodies, yeah, we put our bodies on the line. Um, so I understand your foreshadowing. It says, all right, so how is this plan? He says,
We
all
are
right,
going to destroy the peacekeeper
for good.
for good.
They all are, they all look, you know, ready to do it. They said, but Scarlet says it's not just the peacekeepers anymore. I mean, these Avengers are grassroots. They're shipping people in, and she kind of looks over at the guy from Midnight and says, and we know what kind of people they're shipping them in, and they're I mean, they may not need their peacekeepers anymore if they're willing to rip up the colony like this. I mean, and then she looks again at the Midnight guy and says, unless you people can get behind the rights of these immigrants, and the guy's like, well, they're not real Martians. So the
Uh,
factions are starting to show their differences in this conversation. Um,
we cannot um, address the other problems until we have to be always on guard because this asshole could be attacking us every turn. And we have to show a show of force.
that's right. Steel says the guy from the guys from Steel says, and we're ready. And they look over at Midnight, the Midnight guy, and say, "Are you with us?" And the guy nods. He says, "Yes, I am." And finally, say the Steel guys and say that, and they're ready with it. Remember the pistols I talked about? They're they all the people in Steel are at this point they're really itching for a fight. They really want to take this hard. As soon as you say that, they are ready. One of them even says, you know, um, the uh, to Scarlet and her people, um, this needs to be surgical. We need a few key people. A couple of these Avengers guys posing as Midnight, and then he looks at the Midnight guy and says, even maybe a couple of people who say they're with you, new people. A few examples will really go a long way.
We must organize some distraction, something that would draw away most of the other forces, and then strike quickly.
Well, you've got some pretty good information gatherers here, and all of them have been thinking about proper distractions for some time. And the uh, an obvious target might be, um, well, it depends. I mean, I'm not sure what you mean. Who is the real strike at?
I want to storm the peacekeeping building,
Hmm.
breaking some head, smashing everything, and stealing all their data.
All right. Well, in that case, the best diversion, and here Scarlet looks a little bit grim, a little tough and grim. It says the best diversion would be a soft target. They're cowards. We make a big demonstration of people inadequately defended, a lot of people
Hmm.
in one place, some tempting targets, maybe even you.
It's
and
yes,
and make it easy for the peacekeepers. And yeah, we'll pay a heavy price, but you'll have your diversion.
and
I
we
mean,
will
if we
haven't had a cause, a provocation.
they all kind of look at each other. It's the most ruthless decision you guys have made collectively yet, and they all look at each other and they all vote. They all agree. They all agree. We'll have a we'll set up a sacrificial crowd. Um, the
And I will be there.
mhm. All right. So that it becomes our plan of the moment. Meanwhile, uh, the first of the broadcasts is released. The first one of the 39 Dark, Out of Control, Lane Novak, visionary or madman, with of course a security expert from Earth, talking to a retired peacekeeper. Oh, the remember the
Hmm?
founder of the Peacekeepers is retired,
Ah,
right? And so the then yes, Rebecca Collins, the founder of the Peacekeepers, now a woman in her 60s, is having a debate on a news show, in one of those intellectual talky, counterpoint news shows, um, that with a security expert from Earth. And it's clear that both of them are perfectly agreed that you are not a visionary, you are a madman, and that 39 Dark is not an activist group, it is a menace. And so, really, there isn't any question. They're just agreeing with each other on all the particulars of these things, and yet they're calling it a debate. So, it's being released out into the public
Lynn
right now.
Novak, threat or menace.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, we have the beginning. This opposition is moving. Um, in the past, I talked about how the significant change had brought what looked like concessions. Since there's only significant change, they are not accomplishments. The all of the things that the government has done that's positive in response to 39 Dark so far could easily be reversed
Yes.
if they could spin the political support for the reversal. They'll do it. So that's where we're at. All right, I believe that's the end of our opposition scene.
Yes, so let's start the progress scene. To be certain we are synchronized. I'm circling the 5 on the timeline.
Well, you're the one who has the timeline that goes backwards, and I'm the one who is foolish enough to want to go forwards,
Okay.
like in first, second, third, fourth, rather than ninth, eighth, seventh, sixth. So I'm a little confused, but I am going to say that you have already done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 progress scenes in my.
Already?
That's what it says here.
I think so, because I was tapped before. When we started talking, and was something that was a little off. I think I forgot to circle one of the progress scene. So
Right.
this is
You
the
have
4.
had 5.
And this is the 6th one.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm circling the 4. Rituation. There is a peaceful manifestation for student right, lower school taxes, free access to information,
Right.
no midnight member in sight. I have a small team of bodyguards, and there is a quick extraction prepared in case it's becoming too dangerous. but for what the people can see and all the camera and phones of the people present can show, there is no one armed around.
Right. Right. Okay.
Um,
Mhm.
the groups of armed uh, mm, peacekeepers arrive to disperse the manifestation. We are organized to make them to not offer resistance at this moment, to flee, but to make extremely difficult for them to return to their headquarters.
I see.
Blocked streets, um, cars put in the middle of the way, uh, cutting their tires eventually.
Right.
They and after they are dispersed the manifestation, in unplanned, quote unquote, unplanned
Yes.
rage reaction
Right.
to the
Right.
atrocities they're doing.
Right.
A lot of midnight Steve Mander ride their headquarters and practically destroy everything and steal all the computer.
Right. Steele wants to be in on this too.
What?
Steele wants to participate in the
Yes,
assault.
yes,
They
yes.
Steele currently in terms of manpower uh it never was, I think, as numerous as Midnight. But since Midnight took a very bad hit in terms of arrests and propaganda, and it's been targeted very directly by the government. And a lot of people who were sympathetic to Midnight really were upset about the clash with the police because they like to think of Midnight as the people's police who work with the peacekeepers. So it's been a real hard thing. Midnight as a faction is nowhere near as directly powerful as it was previously. So I'm saying that Steele is more than willing to provide a great deal of the muscle to maybe be the more important militant faction in 39 Dark. Um, so anyway, they're not going to lose this chance. They will be um, they will be involved. Let's see. So just wanted to check on some humiliation, disillusionment. There are just so many different ways for this to go wrong. Okay.
Yes, too many.
Well, tell me about the assault. And what kind of building is it? I mean, what does it look like?
Uh,
I talked about how the peacekeepers area was actually fairly upscale. It doesn't look like a
yes,
downtown police station. It's
yes,
it's
yes, yes.
offices,
Is
right?
modern and well kept offices with all the military installation underground.
Right. Oh, I see. Like the first.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, I see. No, that makes sense. Okay.
We have some guy on the inside,
Mm-hmm.
and we had a copy of one of their mobile armored car
Right.
full of our people. They can return and enter without being.
Right. Right. Okay.
And then when they are here, they should leave the gate open
Right.
for a mass of people to storm inside.
Got it. Okay. So the at the peaceful protest,
Yes.
um, I'm going to say that you might be a little surprised when you're speaking to the crowd and everybody's, listening to you and gathering more people to come and join and stuff like that. You may be a little surprised when your sister
Mm.
arrives and is present to support you. and um, then we have the role. I think it's pretty clear that although you've waited until the peacekeepers have mobilized, that still their headquarters is not entirely undefended.
Yes.
Um, but I will say that the peacekeepers have been pretty, pretty. They've had it fairly easily until just recently, and it probably hasn't occurred to them that they might actually endure a fairly scientific assault.
And more than that, in the previous progress scene, I undercut their funding. So
That's right.
imagine a
Right.
lot of their vehicles are
Right.
broken
Right.
down and they don't
Right.
have the money
Yeah.
to repair them.
And through your insiders, you've probably strategized exactly when the right time is when they are
Yes.
going to be at their weakest, the holes in their security, things like that. So, all right. Um, Therefore, we are rolling sort of for two locations in a way, because as you said, it's quite likely that the peaceful protest is going to become part of the violent uprising, right? So I'm
Yes.
starting you at 6 dice.
6 dice. Roll them dice.
All right, here they come. We have 6, 3, 3, 2, 2, 1.
So in total, how much is?
That will be 16 plus, well, the one doesn't count, so it would be 16 points,
Hmm.
which is quite a bad roll for 6 dice.
Hmm.
But the but
I can ignore the one, but I should move one token from loyal to treasonous.
correct, unless you want to make a sacrifice, that is also an option. You can't
I sacri-
escalate. You can't
I,
es-
sacri- I sacrifice my poor sister.
Oh, brutal. Okay,
Very
so
brutal.
you keep your, yeah, and this is a violent uprising.
She is hit by a bullet.
Ah,
They are really not. They can use bullet. They one of their vehicle go over her. They are riding their vehicle at full speed
right.
in the crowd.
Wow. Okay. So you can ignore the one, and you are looking at 16 points.
So I am 60. Roll again.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1.
Hmm.
Now, you have 7 and 7. That's 14 points if you get to keep them. Now, when it talks about ignoring, I believe that that is per roll, not just for the whole scene. I think. Um,
Yes.
so therefore, you are at your basic set of choices. As a violent uprising, you are in fact permitted to ignore two. So you can ignore them, but unless you want to sacrifice your wife, you're going to have to move 2 tokens to treasonous.
How
And
many point?
and the
How many?
points 7, it's 14 more points.
So I go to 74. I have to check something.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. So, if I understand correctly, now I could ignore both. There is one and turn this into success.
One more question. Hold on. Right. Right. I'm just checking humiliation. Humiliation doesn't count the ones you can ignore. It's only when you can't ignore two ones that you
Yes.
get humiliated. So what
Uh,
were you checking?
uh, I was checking the hope rules, but I would prefer not to use them at this time. You said I can ignore both. There's one.
You can ignore both of these ones, but unless you will either have to move two tokens to treasonous, or you will move one to treasonous and sacrifice your wife.
Then this dice, two ones at this moment.
With, I believe, 6 points to go, or four. How many
Six
points?
points.
6 points to go.
6 points to go.
Now, of course, if you choose to indicate this scene as a failure, then, well, first of all, if you let these two ones determine the failure, you'll be humiliated.
Mm.
And if you, which is very, very dreadful, um, if you choose for it to simply be a failed roll by ignoring just one of them, then you still lose all the points that you gained on rolls in this scene so far. Let's take this to a little narration. I think over at the Lane doesn't know how it's going. He was supposed to be able to keep up with what was happening at the Peacekeepers headquarters through communications. But as it's happened, the situation where you were became too violent, and the Peacekeepers are going berserk, and the escape routes that were set up turn out not to work very well. Too many people get caught in them or something like that. Um, or maybe too many people arrived to join the protest, and so the plans that you made were not enough to accommodate all those people. I'm going to suggest even that Sarah was running after people who were trapped, trying to
I
trying to get them to the place to flee from that they don't know about because they're new. They didn't know where they were supposed to go to escape quickly. And she was running to go and help them, to tell them where to go when she was hit by the vehicle.
um, seeing that and seeing that the situation is much worse than we thought. Um, I I tell some of the bodyguards to take my wife, who is present, to my escape car,
Hmm.
and I try with the other to reach my sister.
I see. Okay. Well, two of them will take Sarah. No, sorry, we'll take Anne,
Yes.
and then two others will join you, and they are. There's no question. I mean, they are shooting. I mean, they draw their guns and they start shooting peacekeepers, and uh, and now there's no mercy on the vehicles. Any peacekeeper vehicles are being detonated. And
Uh,
the steel
more,
guys, the steel
more
guys
than
show
that,
you some. They show you
my
something that you didn't know about.
what
The people in steel who are guarding you,
yes,
they're showing you
yes,
something now that you didn't know about at all. They never told you.
what?
They're using low-tech fragmentation grenades.
Oh,
Right,
well,
canisters with tightly, under pressurized fragmentary material, like springs that shout out that break open. deliberately made in containers that are too fragile, so that when you throw them, they break easily, and then there's a huge concussive detonation with shrapnel, and they're using those. They're throwing them into groups of peacekeepers and blowing people apart. So
Talking about blowing people, my getaway car that I am not inside
correct.
blow up. There is
Oh,
a bomb inside.
with Sarah, with Anna in it.
Yes, it
Oh,
was bombed.
mm. Okay, the place is full of smoke and gas. Very few of the techniques. Remember that the guns are concussive. They're not. They're not. They're not flame oriented. They're not ignition based. Neither are the grenades. They're not ignition based. Um, and the peacekeeper weapons are mostly battery powered when they have energy components. So far, there has not been a lot of smoke, but that bomb that blew up that car was a firebomb. So that's the effect there. Bearing in mind too that they don't use gasoline in the cars; it's all electrical power and muscle power. And so even in the bigger cars, it's battery. So therefore, for there to be an incendiary fire, something, burning fuel or burning uh, a burning type explosion is terrifying to the people who live on Mars. That's like the worst thing, that they could imagine. Um, so yes, that happens. All right. And are you going to move a token to treasonous as well? Or are you going to
Yes.
declare, oh, you are. So you're not going to declare this a failure.
No, I remove. Yes, I remove both of the failures. So I'm keeping all the points.
Right.
One token is moved from loyal to treasonous.
And
That
then
now
and your
is at
third
4,
sacrifice. Right. Right.
and the other is taken care for the second sacrifice.
Okay. So are you ready for another roll of 6 dice?
No,
No, you're going to stop
uh,
here. Okay.
stop here.
Okay.
I cannot
Right.
afford everyone the one at this point.
I completely agree. Right. So,
The total
yeah.
is what
Oh,
is the total of the rolls?
I thought you were taking care of that.
The first one was 16, I think. The second one was
Oh, the second one was the 5 4. I announced the numbers um a couple of minutes ago. Uh, I thought you had 6 points to go.
let keep that. So these are 74.
Right, that's what I thought. Yeah.
74.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right.
Hmm.
So, tell me a little bit more about the outcome. I mean, you can't treat it as a success, so therefore the peacekeepers are not fully destroyed.
Yes, the manifestation, the South is a success. The Midnight and Steel squads did storm the place and take the computer. It
Right,
was a complete success from this point of view, but it's not enough
right,
to totally destroy the peacekeeper.
right,
They have other smaller installation, and they are able to set up headquarters in one of them, and they manage to not lose any of the higher levels, the commander and all
yeah.
the people we have
That
on
we have
the
met,
ship.
yes, yeah,
They're still
yeah.
there.
I'm going to suggest as well that they and Fakiri, the media liaison, will make this announcement. Um, there is part of their contract with the Martian government that gives the possibility to change the laws of Mars, the constitutional laws of Mars, to flip them into martial law that's basically controlled by the peacekeepers. The courts are now shut down. All judgments and assessments of the peacekeepers are free to assess anybody as a security threat on site, and they will not be subjected to any legal uh, response to that. They also are permitted to control the movements and the activities and work schedules of all citizens. So they may not have the personnel to do all of this at this time, but the government and the peacekeepers activate that clause in the contract. So now the peacekeepers are in charge. They may not be they are badly hit in terms of they're badly hit in terms of their actual power on the ground, but they, as you say, their structure is still there and they do this with the government. So whatever is left is currently maximally empowered. So I'm just basically adding some details to the facts that you didn't quite succeed. So
Yes, I'm going underground at this
aha.
point.
Mhm.
So my location change from day to day,
Right.
and obviously is not public anymore.
Right. Right. Okay, well, it would be nice to have a personal scene, but you don't seem to have any followers left. Um,
Yes.
so, and I'm certain that it would make perfectly good sense that we would continue with some other character. I just want to see how that's actually. Oh, I see. No, they don't have to be with a follower. It's just that being with a follower is a very sensible uh, way to go. But I don't have. But I can have personal scenes no matter what. All right. So I am going to make it a personal scene. I'm going to make it. Uh, I'm going to make this a little different. In one of the best ways to hide is not to act sneaky.
Mhm.
So, in to some extent, when you are underground, that still means that you walk around like an ordinary person, just not dressed like Lane Novak.
Mhm.
And one thing that all good revolutionaries know is that they can take pictures of you and do biometrics on your face all they want to. But the fact is, people don't have that many faces. So just because your face matches doesn't mean it's you. And besides, all the programming and all the stuff for that is impossibly screwed up anyway. So they know, it's not they get as many false alarms of your presence through their surveillance methods. They get many more false positives than they get any actual indication of where you are. So as long as nobody informs on you, you're relatively safe. So the important thing is for you to come and go in a particular area without looking like Lane Novak, even though you don't have to wear a disguise or anything. um, So how does your appearance change so that people don't instantly look at you on the street and say, "Oh, that's Lane"?
Well, the his is the way part is letting the bird go.
Right.
The keeping the hair longer,
Hmm.
shades.
Right. Right. Okay.
Mm, maybe being we are in the future, so probably mm, some fails tattoo on the face.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. All right. So you are, so you're much, actually, it's interesting. You just became much more visible, just not as the recognizable
Yes.
figure of Lane Kovacs. I see. Okay. Um, yeah, it actually would be kind of interesting, if we were thinking of this as a, in visual terms, it's as if one of us were describing a mysterious figure, and he actually looks a little threatening, with his kind of street tattoo and stuff like that. We're kind of wondering, is this guy an assassin? Who is this? Whatever. And like, oh, wait a minute, that's
The
Lane.
kind of
Right,
person the people don't want to look in
right,
the face.
right, exactly.
People
So,
turn
yeah,
the face around.
yeah. Perfect. So we have this happening, and while you are coming and going in an area that is probably should be, according to the new law or lack of law, new policy, it should be patrolled by police, by peacekeepers, but they don't have enough people to do it. So at this point, it's more or less easy, to be in. But there are a lot of people there in a kind of disorganized situation. A lot of people who are living off of the official, they're eating food that isn't being accounted for. They're using facilities that's, been repurposed. People are using their own generators, or, fields of food, uh, supplies of food that's being delivered and people are using here are not coming through the official channels. So this is a situation where Lane is walking past a group of people who have brought in a vehicle, which is a wagon that you actually pull, although it has battery effect so that you don't have to provide all the muscle. You're mostly just steering it. And however, um, I'm going to say maybe you don't just pull it. You can move the handle so you can pull it, but you can also sit on it when you can just go straight. Very simple vehicle. Not much more than just a flat piece with some wheels and a simple motor. Um, but a group of people have one of these. There are a bunch of boxes on it. All of them are marked with very official looking symbols. But they're unloading. A bunch of people are unloading these boxes into a building where the stairs go down to get in. So it's a low building whose floor is below the street level. Sort of a sunken construction. A lot of buildings on Mars are like that, I think. And so they're doing that. When you walk by, one of them, one of the men says, uh, what are you doing? Come give us a hand.
I give them a
Right.
hand.
So they are unloading things, and I think you're probably streetwise enough to know that you don't ask what it is in these boxes exactly.
Yes.
And they're talking. After a little while, I mean, they don't talk while they work. It's kind of hard work to get all these boxes in. There's not enough people. That's why they called you over. And but afterward, they pull out, their vapes and start to smoke. And um, vaping, I guess. And so they're doing that and talking and including you in the conversation. And what you learn is that uh, they hate the peacekeepers, but a lot of them feel stuck. They say we just have to keep our heads down and show the government that that we're not, a menace. I mean, that's the problem, is that we have to do stuff like this to live. We have to do this to live, but uh, we have to. There's some way we've got to make sure that we don't get blamed, that we don't get included in this strike back. Right now, the peacekeepers aren't here, but when they show up, they might go house to house. They might, or they might arrest a bunch of us just to be doing something. Um, so they're talking about this. They're talking about, how 39 Dark's gone too far. They're talking about how, all those people, getting killed. They argue about that. Some of them say, "Who cares? They're just recent immigrants. Who cares? About those people." And then another person is like, "Well, you're an immigrant too." And it's like, "I'm no fucking immigrant. My father came to Mars. I was born here." And so there people feel very strongly about that. And the everything would be fine if those people didn't come in the last 10 years. So there's that kind of argument, and there's some other things. I mean, you're realizing too that the people, they're talking about how it might be a good idea to maybe help the peacekeepers out a little bit, give them a show of goodwill, give them some information. They maybe maybe they should start. I mean, this isn't a gang or a group, an organization in any major way. It's not like they have a name. It's a bunch of local people. Um, but this is the conversation has just become a little bit more serious as soon as somebody mentions maybe we should cooperate a little bit. I mean, they're making announcements that there's rewards, there's a little bit of concessions to be made to people who, my brother tells me that he knows a guy who informed of the peacekeepers, and he's set up pretty good now. They let him get away with all kinds of things. That's where I got the vapes, right? So it's times like this, maybe we should start thinking about that. As soon as that happens, the conversation gets very serious, and everybody starts like looking at each other to see what each other's opinion is of this suggestion. You are included in these looks. One person looks significantly at you, especially since they don't know you. He suddenly becomes real interested in what you think. Doesn't even say anything, just the way he's looking at you. Just glances at you and holds your glance like, and what do you have to say, kind of a look. And it better be something.
I say nothing.
Guy this guy's North African looking. And he looks at you. You don't say anything. He says, "Well, what's your opinion? Who are you anyway?"
I
And
don't have.
everybody else kind of suddenly realizes that they've been talking kind of sensitive stuff with you hanging around. They all stop looking at each other, and they start looking at you. And the first guy says again, he says, "What about it? You'll tell the peacekeepers maybe about us?"
I begin to walk away and say, I am no friend of the peacekeeper. I don't talk with them. People who do usually at the scene regret it afterwards.
But you're trying to get away from these people?
I am calmly walking away, not fleeing. Like the conversation is over, I have nothing more to say, and the work is over.
Yeah, they're a little too curious. The first guy comes over and comes up, and the others are following a little bit. And he'll put himself in a position where you're going to have to either go through him or really have to change where you're walking. And he says, uh, "My name is Jamal. I grew up right here. You're a Martian, I can tell. What's your name?" He says, "We're all friends." He says, "We're all friends here, and we're friendly to anybody. But who are you?" And I mean it. What side are you on, anyway?
Mm, what do you want my name? I am not of these parts. I was traveling through the neighborhood.
You won't even tell us your name? Bob? You know, Hamid? Juan?
Bob is all right. You can use it if you want.
All right, Bob. Look me in the eye and tell me that you've got nothing to do with the peacekeepers.
I look into his eyes and say, I have nothing to do with the peacekeeper.
He kind of blinks. There's something about the way you said that isn't the way an ordinary person says it, I think. And kind of nods and says, "All right, yeah. Thanks for the help with the truck. Listen, let us know if you need anything. Everybody around here knows who I am. Stay in touch."
I will stay in touch.
Right. So that's a personal scene.
Okay. Personal scene, not threatening.
Nothing about a personal scene says you can't get beat up.
Yes. So the next one is another progress scene. I'm circling the 3. And this something I was setting up when I said that we are taking the computer of
Yes.
the peacekeepers. It's not so much important that we have them. As we said, we have hackers who already wasn't inside their system.
Yes.
The important thing is the population know that we have had.
Right.
The next progress scene is about fake news. True fake news. There is a lot of things that the peacekeeper were keeping under wrap that the news didn't talk about.
Oh, sure.
But the general population did know something about word of mouth. Is a very little place. This
Well,
one.
I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people suspected that the Avengers were basically peacekeepers and a bunch of people who were very sympathetic to them.
So we take a lot of things that are true, that most people know are true. So to give something that give them something like is more true than the news they get from the newspaper.
Right. Well, that's pretty much what Gold and Scarlet have been doing this whole time.
We link them to the people we believe are really responsible.
Right.
We crank up the reason and the accusation a lot.
Right.
But Let's make an example. The government is keeping the death of people in the factories under wrap.
Right.
There is a lot of people, bodies
Hmm.
that simply disappear. So the fake news is that these people disappear because they are killed to the pleasure of the factory owners.
Okay.
They organize torture and snuff festivity with the government, with people of the government.
Wow. Okay. It's a little crazy, but okay.
Another one could be that any kind of criminal rings get tied to the peacekeeper.
Right. Well, all this is very nice, but it isn't a civil protest. It's not civil disobedience, and
No,
it's not a
it's
violent uprising. So you need to give me one of those.
the setup. The setup is spreading all these rumors and organizing a general strike against the peacekeeper.
Right. Right.
Peaceful at this point because they are trigger is more dangerous now.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So what will it look like? Where is it? What do people
A
do?
total lockdown of the colony, meaning not even ships can dock,
Ah,
and nothing work until they are
that's civil disobedience, not just a civil protest. You want Fordyce?
Could be no, it could be a raise, but I want to start with only two.
Okay.
So at this moment, protest that could
What about a
escalate.
protest? What perhaps the protest could be about something a little bit more concrete, a little bit less intellectual, which is going to be a memorial for people who were killed by the peacekeepers in the last couple of actions.
Yes, a good idea.
It's what certainly some members of 39 Dark want to do that. You know, maybe.
And the is we were doing this protest. I'm trying to get the council member to revoke the contract to the peacekeepers.
Right. Got it. Right.
Okay.
Got it. Okay. 2 dice?
2 dice. What did you roll?
2. 1. The worst possible roll, except for.
Okay, let's
The only option, I believe, unless you want to get Lane shot and end the game, is to escalate to civil disobedience.
Yes. Let us escalate to civil disobedience.
All right, so get you 2 points.
Yes.
Ready?
Roll 4 dice.
You're going to like this. 6, 5, 5, 3. And even if we miscounted a little bit, about 6 points left, I think we just solved that problem.
Yes.
So you just got 19 points, plus the 2 from the previous roll, so 21 total in this scene. Do describe to me the nature of the civil disobedience. You said lock down the ports and...
Is something that can go a long time.
I think what we're really seeing is that the peacekeepers are demonstrated to be completely powerless on the ground.
Yes.
They can't stop
They
it.
cannot do nothing about this.
Right. So they're a paper tiger. There's no reason for the government to maintain the contract if they can't actually meet, they're if they can't break heads, then they're what good are they?
So
So,
the government actually organized a meeting with me.
aha, got it. Yes. And so that gets you to 80. So policing is the first one that you have full success on that. With all the
Yes.
okay, right. So you have accomplished
About
that. The problem with policing is now solved, and the public understanding of the issue is such that if the government pulls any shit from now on, the populace is informed as to the history and to the circumstances and will be able to push back. So, and enough people in politics, all of a sudden, it's very clear. I mean, the representatives. I mean, let's go ahead and grab, the council. I mean, obviously, according to the council, according to the colony mayor, Iara Diaz. According to the colony mayor, I mean, the peacekeepers had come under serious review already and were just about to be shut down anyway. So, clearly, we can do better than this. And now that the perceived excesses of 39 Dark are now recognized as self-defense against a rogue agency, a rogue private agency, that now, 39 Dark can be treated a little bit more with a little bit more consideration
I
regarding
imagine a
policing.
lot of pictures with me shaking hands with a lot of government people smiling at the camera.
Right. Well, not only
Probably they
that,
will.
yeah. Oh, and by the way, since you in this one, you made significant progress in the previous progress scene, right?
Yeah,
Right.
not the previous one because it was the one between 44 and
Right.
94,
Right.
but the one before, yes.
Yes, that's what I mean. And I think, and so in that one, you could have gotten Jack freed, couldn't you?
Yeah, yes,
Yeah. So I imagine Jack had been freed between, at that point, and so you have one follower left.
I cannot. I can talk to him, but I can't use him again as a sacrifice.
So then the reason for that is that he has been so badly hurt that he's going to be recovering for a long time. So, um, yeah, his hopes for his family are completely ruined.
Getting over 80, I should get a point back from prisoners to loyal,
Correct.
but
So more people.
I ignored. I ignored that one.
You mean in the
So
past?
in the first of the two roles I made in this scene.
Yes. What I'm
So
right.
they cancel each other out, I think.
Um. Oh, I see. So in other words, you had already gained 1 point back for loyalty, and then you spent one to
Yes,
be treasonous. So you're back where you started. Right.
yes.
Okay.
I still had four prisoners.
Wow.
Prisoner. Your turn.
I believe so. I will at this time. We had that personal scene. We had the well then. Sure. In all this handshaking, you have a conversation. And the conversation is very clear. Policing, yes, and your control over the factions, the more militant factions, is such that you have shown that 39 Dark can be valuable, particularly since you now have uh, the support of people who would otherwise have been considered midnight potentially. That they expect you to keep that portion of the populace under control. And in particular, a good way to do that is to crack down on the immigrants yourself. Number one, but that's fine. I mean, they trust you at this point to make practical decisions about that. But there's something else that the head of security for the coalition, who I don't think I just made that person up. They're not in the organization. Um,
The Earth Coalition.
the colony government.
Yes.
I'm actually going to say that Garti Ba is the head of the committee of the
Mhm.
security committee for the colony government. Oh, and I think it's also pretty straightforward, don't you? That a whole bunch of articles and interviews. I mean, there's News Network does a set of very important interviews with you and things like that. And it's also very clear that they don't care. They're perfectly happy to treat you positively for a while. Um, but nobody knows what happened to Fakiri. Fakiri is gone. Zaki Zhao has been arrested, and there's going to be a very complicated set of trials and things like that. But Fakiri is somehow missing. Um, but anyway, Ba is going to meet with you, and Ba is going to be very clear that all the activities of Scarlet and Gold, of the information wing of 39 Dark, now come under his control. And you need to create a liaison with 39 Dark, with those factions, and uh, you are to comply. You need to give up Scarlet and Gold. All those functions. 39 Dark will become a policing organization. Their own services, surveillance, and so on will incorporate the functions of Scarlet and Gold, and they will no longer be under the jurisdiction of you. And even you can keep the name 39 Dark for public relations purposes, but its concept as a governing, as a body, a policy body of any kind, is going to be sharply diminished. So yes, you get to be, you've succeeded in policing. You can get that inside the government tent now, but they really don't need all those fucking hackers doing any of that anymore. They want the
I
people
think
and they want their equipment.
I think I have to respect. Uh, you understand? I cannot accept that.
No, Ba is very sorry to hear that. Let me take my notes here.
Uh, let's be clear. This is a truce. It's not a marriage.
Mm-hmm.
I am not going to disarm to do a unilateral disarming.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you give us all the intel you have?
Mm-hmm.
We could run the intelligence side of the government.
Mm-hmm.
We are pretty good at that.
Ba says, well, it looks like we're going to have to work out some kind of arrangement then. We will continue to have this dialogue. We are particularly interested in any contact to the woman known as Scarlet.
Hmm.
Your suggestion could be a very valuable one, but we get her. It's probably not surprising to you that Scarlet has a long and painful history with the security services of both Mars and Earth. So, I mean, I see her very much as a Julian Assange kind of figure. So,
Are
they
you
they they
really
want her bad. They want her scalp. They want her. They are not. There is no compromise. That has
are
been
you
clear.
really sure you want to go against her? It's not better if with she stay quiet and under control.
This is personal. Says Bob. It's personal not just for me, but it's personal in everybody involved in the Security Council. We cannot afford to give up our investment in her reputation as an information terrorist. We've built our careers and our reputation on that reputation of hers. We need to demonstrate victory. Keep that in mind. We'll have plenty of time to talk over the details. You think about it. Is this 39 Dark that you're talking about? Or is this just one deranged, obsessive, and dangerous? I doubt you found her very controllable. What if she decides to turn all that surveillance on you one day? Go ahead. I'm patient. I'm pretty confident. Not too long from now, you'll be hacked as badly as she's been hacking us. Then you come and talk to me and we'll see how good my deal looks. All right, so that's the
Until the
opposition
time.
team. Yeah.
Okay.
You probably won't be surprised to consider that they are not wasting any time preparing for this. Moving against Scarlet on their own is not a bad idea from their perspective. So, what scene is next?
Hmm. I'm thinking. After all this chaos, I think we should stay still peacefully. I want to do something about the transparency, but let's see. Something peaceful about that. Hmm.
Now, as I recall, we had kind of blended the agendas of transparency and elections,
Yes.
but it doesn't have to stay that way. But
Online campaigning is listed among the thing we. So
yes,
let's stay out of the street for a while. We have to show that it was the peacekeeper that was making all that chaos on the street.
right.
Everything should work perfectly at this moment, but a lot of pressure for concerned citizen and intellectual and even street level at the school for freedom of information and some kind of some person from 39 Dark on the television network to check for correctness of information. Because before that there was too much ties with the peacekeeper, and we have to be sure that people get the correct information.
Well, the news network is going to hate that.
Probably.
They actually are. They don't want anybody interfering, and they, as you might imagine, have their own complicated little sort of government within a government. The way I see it is that the news network is not quite private or not quite public. When it comes to getting funding, they're public. When it comes to following the laws and regulations, they're private.
Yes.
Basically, like most of the banks in the United States, they're public insofar as it benefits them, and they're private insofar as it benefits them. And they have none of the constraints that are on either. So So what is the action? You said a civil protest, right? What does it look like?
At the beginning, simply something like signing petitions, some sort of high level political, for example, probably there is in the Malthian constitution some provision for people to propose bills.
Yeah.
The
I would
usual,
say that the Constitution is probably a really, really good Constitution with a lot of
yes,
avenues for the people to organize and get things done. It's just that
and
nobody's been following anything in the
yes,
Constitution for the, since it was written.
as
So
usual,
yeah, it's a beautiful Constitution though.
constitution are very, very nice documents that nobody follows.
Exactly. So
And I imagine that every time in the past people are trying to sign some bill for the bill was accepted, put in a closet.
right, yes, exactly.
Uh,
Or for example, there was some provision by which it was given a new category, or perhaps any number of things. Or even, remember, the best way to do it is just not to inform the people that they're able to do it. If you say, oh,
yes,
but you have to fill out this form, even though there's nothing about filling out the form, you just made it up. But now everybody knows you have to get this form filled out, and this form is impossible. So,
there
that
was a
solves the problem
rather
right there. All you need is one group of people falling out of the habit of doing it, and nobody does it anymore. So.
there was a very high visibility case some years ago when really a lot of people signed in Italy for a bill, a bill to very simple thing. Everybody with a criminal record should not be able to be elected in the parliament.
Okay, how did that go?
It was really a lot of signatures, more than 3 times the one necessary.
Yeah.
The Constitution say that the Parliament has to discuss every bill signed by so much people, but in the Parliament where there was more than 50 people with criminal record,
I was going to say, yeah, Parliament felt a little threatened by this.
The Italian Parliament has a higher percentage of people with criminal record than the worst neighbor in all Italy.
Right.
And they simply said, okay, the Constitution say that we have to discuss this, but doesn't give a time.
Right. So we'll just keep discussing it whenever we get around to it for as long as we want.
And they never discussed it.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Never.
We discussed it this morning. Weren't you there? Right. Yeah, I see. So yes, I get that.
Returning to the game, I imagine that at this point, not, as usual, nobody will worry about it. But when we have the signatures, we began to make a lot of pressure, picketing the TV station and the government.
Okay, so thinking about 39 Dark, the street orientation isn't really all that important, except for security to protect the protesters. Yes. But that's not so. The peacekeepers are not really an issue anymore, so therefore it's not so bad as a concern. But I will say that the basically the media itself is going to be pushing back at this, and so the real problem is getting the information out there. You guys have your own methods for doing that, but you're going to have to make use of them. You will get no media coverage of this at all. You have to use you have to use your underground methods entirely.
Underground methods, and talking about that in the school.
Right.
Whole school assembly.
Yes.
And
So two
something
dice.
very grassroots, house by house.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. A good citizens campaign. This sounds like two dice to me.
Yes.
5 points. No ones.
So we have a 54. Let's keep the pressure. Roll again.
11 points. Great roll.
65. Roll again.
Well, what a nice, wonderful, peaceful, pacifistic, and legal kind of thing you're doing here. 10 points, 4 and 6.
75. Let's roll again.
2 and 3.
80.
No ones.
Yes, perfect. So I go to treasoner at 3 and loyal at 6. My behavior was one of the very good citizen, no revolutionary at all.
That's right. So yes, the 39 Dark seems to have quieted down a little bit. And that's as it is. Let's see. So where are we? What is our number for the progress scenes? How many do you have left?
1.
1.
The next one is the last
Mhm.
scene.
Well, the next progress scene is the last scene.
Yes.
A few nights later,
Hmm.
Scarlet is arrested. Wait, that would be policing, and you are not. Let's see.
What?
You receive an order
Hmm.
that Scarlet is to be arrested through the authority of, the new police force, the new police group. And I don't know if you follow that or not.
So
They didn't have another meeting with you. You have received official direction to arrest Scarlet.
from a judge, from the government, from who?
It's basically, yes, it's done with all the right signatures.
Hmm. And I meet with her,
Mm-hmm.
and I talk with her, and I tell her my plan. We will going to arrest her with a lot of
Very visible, right?
visible, but and this will be something that will enrage a lot of people in the government. We will house arrest her.
Ah, I see.
So in
Right.
practice, we will have armed people for 39 Dark circling her house
Right.
to keep her
Safe. Right.
safe.
Yes. Well, that sounds fine. She says, she looks at you and says very casually, "Sure."
Do you agree?
Of course.
This is not what I'm not a dictator. We are doing this together. I want to hear your opinion.
She says, "It's a good plan. I have a reputation to maintain. there will be some consequences you may have to adjust to.
I would like to hear about these consequences so I can prepare for them. I went here to talk with you before doing anything, so you will be prepared. I would
She says,
like.
She says, I have laid a few interesting surprises for the news network into place. If anything happens to me, they know what I've promised them. I need to make sure those promises are kept. So, should I be taken into custody of any kind? Should my name emerge? Anything of that kind? And I agree, we can do this, just as you describe, but I'm crippling them.
Okay.
And certain names will have this light shined upon them.
They know about this.
Wait, say that again, Moreno?
They know about. I ask her. They know about.
I've made some promises. Some of them specific, some of them general.
And why do you think they still go after you? If there is.
Don't you understand, Lane? I have to explain everything to you, don't I? Because it's through you. And it's not the news network which is responsible for this. Somebody's benefiting from this. Probably those assholes in security. She says, and yes, I've got a few of them on my list as well, believe me.
I will could use some information as okay. My next I told my next objective is a seat of the government.
Another little, walk around, wave a few flags again. Maybe a little bit of singing.
No, I will some mud to throw around could be quite useful.
I like to think of it as light. But yes, she says, all right, let's play your little game of arrest. Let me do the damage that I've promised to the news network. And then get ready for the big hit when you have it in mind.
Okay.
All right. Here, she says, and slides one of those little half sticks to you. Says, this is the identity you can give up for me. All the personal information of, and she smiles a little bit and she says, a real me.
Okay, I take this gizmo, I don't remember how we called it, right. And
a burst, remember?
Yeah, a burst, yes. And I a little amnesia. I forgetting the word in English for to. Okay, bye bye.
No problem. Okay, so that's fine. I mean, that's the opposition scene to let you know what's going on. However, I will say that as you might expect, since you can't just tell everybody in 39 Dark that this is a big deception,
mm-hmm.
It's not going to look good for you for a lot of people, especially in Scarlet.
I'm trusting my political enemy to do enough noise about the way I'm not really arresting her, I want to be attacked.
Right. Right.
Being
Well, right.
attacked, United 39 Dark,
Right.
having an enemy.
Right. Well, that's a fine tactic, and we'll see how well it goes when things go against you later, if they do. So let's just say that 39 Dark is always full of vulnerable points. And right now, if too many people get too annoyed or resentful about this, I mean, you already lost Jack, right? A key member of Midnight. Um, People, it's going to be all too easy for people to say that you throw away your most trusted and most useful people when it suits you. So just, keep that in mind, that that's a way for you to be in trouble. So, all right, what next?
The last progress scene, I say, I broke down the peacekeeper. I can check the two networks and control what they write.
Right.
I'm going to against the government.
Okay.
The issue was representation. I want a representative of 39 Dark in the government,
Sure.
in the administration.
All right. Okay. So, how are you going to do this?
At the beginning, with peaceful manifestation and political pressure. Some people we can, as I said, I don't remember this. My English today is even.
That's okay. Take your time. I need to check
Okay.
a couple of things anyway. I'm just
Okay.
wondering, are we being too nice? I don't think so. I mean, we've ignored all the ones legally, right?
Yes.
And once you
Yes.
ignore them, and you don't have any hope and disillusionment, so we don't have to worry about that particular.
Yes.
We don't
And
have to worry about that.
I have check another thing. If I have understood the rule correctly, if I use hope
Yes.
in this scene, it doesn't count until the next.
Right. You need your tokens in place before you need to worry about rolling 1 and 2, 1 and 3.
So this scene, I can use hope without worrying about anything.
I think that's true. You can feed them as much hope as you want.
Yes.
So
it's politics after all.
Right. Okay. Ready?
Ready.
Just 2?
Sure.
What does the protest look like again? I'm sorry.
I said the usual peaceful protesting pays me on television saying that people, we represent the people, and we can make the voice of the people heard in the government.
What kind of people might be watching this set? Give me the again. This isn't enough fiction.
Mm-hmm.
If you're on the TV screen, who's watching
Yes.
it? Just give me somebody to imagine.
Who's watching from their home?
Anybody? Tell me.
I imagine a government office and the people screaming against the screen and saying, I told you we should have killed that asshole.
Right. Got it. Gotcha. Okay. I roll a 10. 2 5s.
53. Roll again.
2 and 2. 57.
57.
It's the
Roll
problem with these
again.
peaceful protests. They are so slow.
Slow. It takes time.
2 and 5.
7, 64. Roll again.
No. 4 and 4. Now we are getting close.
4 and 4, so we have 72.
Yes.
Roll again.
I have rolled a 4 and a 5.
81.
Viva la revolution.
I won.
We're not finished.
Okay.
After 9 progress scenes, a new leader will rise to power in 39 Dark. The
Yes.
savior may describe why Lane is no longer wanted or needed, or leave her fate open-ended. So first tell me why Lane is no longer the leader.
I think that at this point, the only way that this sudden substitution after all this string of success
Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be sudden, but go on.
is that may get to the end that every leader of 39 Dark had before him is assassinated.
Well, he's only the second leader. So,
Okay.
all right. So
he
okay.
becomes some martyr figure, a hero with status or everything.
But who did it?
Is a little too much Hollywood, probably Fakiri.
Yeah. Almost. I mean, seems like the most sensible. We do not narrate an epilogue. I will describe the state of the colony at the afterward.
Mm-hmm.
And then you will narrate what 39 Dark looks like. First of all, the colony is vastly more transparent, and it has a better more democratic technology access, and it has better transparency. Now, in terms of the specifics, that means that they have policing that is based on more grassroots neighborhood, more monitored legal procedures. They also have better political outcomes in their processes, more transparency toward how all the politics are supposed to work and how they're presented in the media. The power structure of the news network is completely shattered by Scarlett's revelations, and the peacekeepers are a dead issue; they're completely gone. The interesting thing that seems to me to be necessary that occurs is Mars basically renegotiates its relationship with Earth. Mars turns into its own, its own independent state. I mean, it had done so to some extent already, but now, the Earth, there is no Earth representative on the colony council. They don't call it a colony anymore. It's no longer Mars colony. It's Mars. And so instead of an Earth Coalition member on the Colony Council, now it is an ambassador from Earth nations, different Earth nations and groups. They have their ambassadors now. That's going to take time to establish, but it does. Some of the bad things are that it continues to be a weapons manufacturer, and in many ways contributes to a great deal of misery on Earth. But the nature of life on Mars is vastly improved. And immigration continues to be a sore point, a very, very difficult issue. There is no immediately good answer. There is no way to overcome the layers of prejudice. If your great grandfather came here, that's the best. If your grandfather came here, that's really good. If your father came here, well, you still belong. If you came here, are you good enough or not? You know, and these distinctions only become more and more embedded over time.
With Midnight practically in the government, probably there is a less immigrant on Mars.
Right. I mean, immigration will certainly be policy over immigration itself. Especially with the Declaration of Independence, there's going to be a lot of trouble, a lot of controversy. It's going to be the ongoing issue for the rest of for the foreseeable future. Authoritarianism is always going to struggle with freedom of thought, freedom of expression, democratization of education. 39 Dark well, it's up to you to say. Will 39 Dark, I mean, it's neither good nor bad, but will 39 Dark as an entity survive Lane Novak after these successes in particular? So you let me know. What do you think?
I think that, as I said in one scene before, Novak kept all these people united because every time they had a common enemy.
Right.
Sometimes it even provoked them to be attacked. When they are in the government, the difference between the various factions become more pronounced.
Yeah.
But nobody want to leave
Right.
39
Oh,
at this
I
point.
see.
So is being it's become more a political party.
So it has too much identity to give up.
Yes,
Yeah.
so it's former currents inside with alternative go to command the coalition, and then they it's become a little like the American political parties, where before the general election there was the previous election inside the party.
Yes.
And sometimes there is the right wing, sometimes there is the left wing.
Right.
They go up.
Right.
But it's a general, I don't say corruption, because the previous government was a lot corrupt, but with being in power, a lot
a certain admirable purity is gone. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And I think that after a while, Midnight become more and more powerful.
Right.
Because the problems of having too much people become more and more imminent.
Well, it's a lot easier to get resentful and blaming than it is to actually try and come up with a viable policy. So, all right. Well, there you go. We played 39 Dark. Anyway, thanks a lot, Mario. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.